What did Bernie Madoff, Sylvia Plath, the TV show Friends, and Amanda Knox have in common? According to a new book, they can all help us understand why our interactions with strangers often go so wrong. The new book is titled Talking to Strangers, What We Should Know About the People We Don't Know. In it, best-selling author Malcom Gladwell looks at the harmful impact of not understanding other people and how we can improve. Malcolm joins us now. Good morning. Thank you for being here. I think we should begin by defining stranger. I mean, we're strangers. We said hello in the green room.
Yeah.
What is a stranger in your view?
I mean, anyone outside of your immediate circle of family and friends.
Yeah.
And one of the sort of central arguments of the book is that strategies that work really well with people who are intimate to us don't work so well with people who are outside of our circle. And we need to understand that difference.
And you say the case of Sandra Bland, a woman in Texas pulled over, ends up committing suicide in prison a few years ago, that it's a case study in what can happen when we fail to read strangers appropriately. How so?
Yeah, so this was one of that string of very high-profile cases a couple of years back of confrontations between African Americans and police officers. And it's the reason for the book. I, like many people, heard about that case, was incredibly moved by it, and wanted to write a full explanation of what happens. How can a conversation between a normal police officer and a young woman coming from a job interview in a middle-class Texas town in the middle of the day, how can it go so badly awry that the woman ends up in prison and then ends up committing suicide a few days later? And so I wanted to sort of go through all of the ways in which we can misread each other. What are the mistaken assumptions we carry around with us? Are there tools that we're using to make sense of strangers that aren't up to the task?
You don't write about race in that interaction, though, which surprised me.
I don't, because it's implicit. I mean, of course that confrontation was about race, but what I wanted to do was to take the conversation one step beyond. Because I feel like in this country sometimes, when we say that something's racial, it becomes an excuse to do nothing more. Mm-hmm. You say, oh, the cop was a racist, and then you say, well, how do you prevent that in the future?
Right.
How do you change someone's heart? And my point is, there is a way to understand this on a deeper level.
Yeah, you said Sandra Bland wasn't criminal. She wasn't a criminal. She was just very upset.
Yeah.
You go point by point, the interaction between Sandra and the cop. People have to read that to get to that, because we've got so many things in this book. I like what you say about the truth default theory.
Yeah.
Which is so, I hadn't thought about it until you put it that way.
Yeah.
Explain what that means, Malcolm.
Well, this is an idea from a really brilliant psychologist named Tim Levine, who argues that he was concerned with this problem that many psychologists have been concerned with for years, which is human beings are not good at detecting lies. We're terrible at it. We think we're good at it, we're not. And the question is why? And there's all kinds of theories, and his explanation, I think, is the most convincing. And he says, it's because we have a default to truth, that human beings, as part of our essential nature, are trusting machines. Mm-hmm. And that when we talk to someone, our assumption is, you are being sincere, you are telling me the truth, and it takes a lot of evidence to sort of shake me out of that default position.
Is that why you say face-to-face interactions aren't helpful?
Well, they are helpful, they're problematic. I mean, I think we greatly overestimate how much information we can gather from a face-to-face interaction for this very reason, among other things, because we're very trusting, and also we jump to all kinds of conclusions from what...
You talk about the Brock Turner case, which you said, the Stanford swimmer, harmless encounter on a dance floor ended up a crime. The reason why this story in particular is so important is about the role that alcohol plays and people don't understand.
Yeah.
Alcohol, especially if you're blind drunk, changes who you are.
Yeah, I wanted to... That's deep in the book. I'm starting to talk about what are the kinds of things that can impair our ability to conduct this very difficult negotiation between strangers.
Because these kids go to parties to meet strangers.
They go to parties to meet strangers. And I think we have underestimated just how it's more than toxic. It's that the presence of alcohol in a conversation between two strangers changes each party's sense of themselves, the decisions they make. Mm-hmm. It can turn ordinary people into criminals. I mean, it is, and I think that there is particularly in the younger generation, they have I think a cavalier attitude towards alcohol's dangers, and we need to address that.
We need to meet strangers. We don't live in a village anymore. You're going to constantly encounter people that you don't know on a daily basis. If we're getting it wrong right now, how can we get it more right? How can we be better at this?
Yeah, so the last part of the book is concerned, I take the specific example of how police behave And because that's one of the most consequential, that's a profession by its very nature is about people talking to strangers. Police officers are required to. How can we help them do a better job? And I think that is a really crucial question. And I talk in the book about how we need to give police a lot more, we need to be far more selective in how we use proactive, aggressive police power. We need to use it only in those situations where there is a high degree of probability that criminal behavior is taking place.
All right, Malcom Gladwell, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Talking to Strangers is on sale tomorrow.